Looks like they're going to get Conor Gallagher. How close?
Yeah, we understand he's in Madrid to complete this deal. Chelsea accepted a deal in the region of £34 million. They weren't able to reach consensus on a longer contract for him. Darmish, I'm sure, will explain in more detail. He made his final decision 1 minute before the deadline. So this one looks like it's proceeding. We expect it to happen, and we expect him to sign a 5-year contract.
He teed you up, Darmish, so tell us, how did we get here?
This is incredible, this whole scenario, actually. There was interest from Atletico Madrid throughout the summer, we know that. We know that there was a big gap in valuation between what Chelsea wanted and what Atletico wanted to pay. Then last week, we had that breakthrough where Chelsea brought down their price so that they could agree a deal with Atletico Madrid. So the question is, why would Chelsea do that? There are two sides to this. First of all, it was made clear to Gallagher, we're told, that he would only be a squad player under Enzo Maresca. So the contract that they offered him was kind of reflective of that. It was a 2-year deal plus the option of a further year. Now, it's understood that Chelsea were quite sympathetic towards Gallagher and his England aspirations, so that if he was only going to be a squad member, him being part of the England squad now, would he be able to maintain that if he was only a squad member? Did he need to go somewhere where he was going to be playing more regularly than he would have done had he stayed at Chelsea? So, in a way, it was almost Chelsea helping Conor Gallagher to try and get that move. But that's if you look at it on face value. Chelsea are doing all they can to help Conor Gallagher out. But you've got to also remember it was a 2-year contract that they offered him, plus a 1-year option. So the cynics might say, were Chelsea actually trying to offload Conor Gallagher? Now, the information we got from one source is that Chelsea made 2 contract offers to Conor Gallagher. The first one was made 4 days before the European Championships. And that was just after he had rejected the chance to join Aston Villa. And that contract offer, 4 days before the Euro started, was for 2 years plus a 1-year option. Sound familiar? The second contract offer, that came just the day before Atletico Madrid got wind of the fact that Chelsea were going to lower their terms, and they agreed. And what was that offer? It was identical, we are told, to the one that was offered to Conor Gallagher just 4 days before the Euro. So, as far as Conor Gallagher was concerned, I don't think he wanted to leave Chelsea. He was open to signing a new contract at Chelsea, provided it was a long-term contract and in line with the length of contract that the rest of the midfielders in his position were getting. We know we're in an era at Chelsea when whenever we talk about a new signing, whenever we talk about a new contract, we are like aghast because it's Chelsea have given them a 7-year contract plus a 1-year option, whereas they felt Conor Gallagher should only be afforded a 2-year contract plus a 1-year option. So it's up to people to decide whether you take this on face value or take it from a cynic's perspective, that either Chelsea were offering him a chance to get regular first-team football, or they were actually using their tactics to try and get him to leave and effectively choosing the club he was going to go to because they didn't want him to go to a Premier League rival.
I'm going to ask the sporting director, should we be cynical about this?
I think the contract, if it's right in the 2+1, I think that tells Conor everything he needs to know about what Chelsea were trying to do, is my opinion. I know Conor. When I was at West Brom, we got promoted to the Premier League. We took him on loan, gave him his first Premier League experience. And the one thing that I will say is this would have been an extremely difficult decision for Conor. I saw when I dealt with him, I saw when his dad come up, when we signed him with his agent, Paul. Chelsea is close to their heart. They're massive Chelsea fans. And for him, he was telling us, for him just to go back and play for Chelsea was what he dreamed of. So for him to then make a decision where there is a contract on the table, from what we've been told, whatever length it is, we don't know, but there is a contract there, for him to make that decision to then leave, he wouldn't have taken lightly. He'd have been thinking a lot about this. The family would have done. And there's not that often when a transfer happens where I feel everyone wins. I think this is a great move for Conor. I think it's a great piece of business for Atletico with the price they paid. And I think from Chelsea's point of view, with a player that could potentially this January sign a pre-agreement with a club abroad and then leave and walk away in 10 months' time for nothing, I think they've done well. So I actually think everyone wins. I think in 2 years' time, we'll see a different Conor Gallagher, because playing under Simone at Atletico, the way they play, I think he'll come on leaps and bounds.
Luke, can I just ask you something? There was a feeling that he would only become a squad player under Enzo Maresca because of the possession-based style that Enzo Maresca would want to adopt. Now, is that fair on Conor Gallagher? Does that fit his style? And could, from what you know and what you know of him as a player and a person, could he have adapted to Enzo Maresca's style to maybe earn that kind of new contract that he would have wanted?
I think Conor's got the ability to, to handle the ball, as we'd say, but I think Enzo is a more possession-based coach. I think he will see others in front of him, and I wouldn't say a possession is Conor's main strength. He come to us at West Brom in the Premier League. We didn't have the ball that much, but he would go and get it back for us. If you look the following season, he went to Crystal Palace on loan. Under Roy Hodgson, the way they set up, they didn't have the ball that much either. And he goes and gets the ball back, and he looks effective. He's very, very effective. He will get goals in that system as well. I think the way Chelsea are trying to play now under this new head coach, I can see why the coach is saying you would be a squad player because you don't fit in. The other thing I think we need to take into consideration as well is Lavia, the boy he signed last year. He's been injured a year. If I'm right, I think Enzo, the manager, would have had him at Man City for a year, so he knows his qualities. He'll be like a new signing because he hasn't yet played. So I think with him, Caicedo, Fernandes, I think that's his three that he wants. Obviously, he's brought in Dewsbury Hall, that is lovely in possession, that he knows from Leicester. So I think that's made up their minds. But I think he suits Simone like he suited Pochettino, the way he plays. Enzo, maybe not so much.
How difficult is it as a sporting director when there's a change of coach in the summer? Because presumably you've got your plans moving forward and suddenly the coach changed. Pochettino, for example, he made him a key player at Chelsea. The coach changes. So how difficult is it in your role?
Do you know what, the fact that Conor didn't sign a new contract when Pochettino was the manager tells me that they knew what was going to happen long before it did happen. Because if we all thought Mauricio would be there this year, I'm sure Conor would have signed a contract way before the Euros. It can be difficult in the role that I'm in or I've been in. However, when you're having discussions with the managers coming in, you're going through the squad with them before they've been appointed, who they like, what system they want to play, who will fit into that. So that Chelsea board, owners, sporting directors would have had an idea of what Enzo, who he does and doesn't like, before he'd have been appointed anyway. So that would have come into it as well.
Because Mike asked about the role of a sporting director. He's part of the role to be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of everybody else and have those plans in place.
Yeah, you've got to try and be ahead of the game as much as you can. And the longer you do it and the longer the manager's there with you, the more easy it is to have that step in place.
What about Chelsea's recruitment? It's raised a lot of eyebrows, all these long-term contracts, as Dharmesh said. What do you make of the way they're doing business?
I can sympathise with them for a little bit, and the reason why I say that was the last signing we made at West Brom in the Premier League was Karlan Grant from Huddersfield. Now, we was in a situation where the ownership, where we didn't have any funds to go and buy Karlan. Slaven Bilic was the coach. He wanted him. He was making a lot of noises in the press to put pressure on us to go and get him. Yeah. And the only way we could get him was to pay Huddersfield a certain amount of money over 6 years. So because the payment is over 6 years, the contract has to reflect that. Now, we did it purely because that's all we could afford. I think other clubs are now doing it to get around FFP. Yeah. The only question mark I would have is I'm not too sure how hungry it then makes the player. Potentially, someone sitting on a 4, 5, 6 year contract. Don't get me wrong, there'll be players that go and play to the best of their ability anyway, but sometimes do they lose that fire in the belly a little bit because they've got that big long-term contract.